Well, here they are. If there's anything that will be at the center of this business forever, it is the show on which these stars proudly appear every morning on NBC. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the whole family of the Today Show, now 40 years on the air, right here. Well, I tell you, being surrounded by all these pros, I mean, this is hair-raising. Oh, I'm sorry,
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry. 40 years old, this program.
That's young.
That's them.
And guess who's back in the #1 position? It's only the Today Show. I'll tell you what. They've been beaten for 31 straight weeks. They haven't won in 46 straight weeks. This has got to be the worst. Can you imagine getting up every morning and saying you lost again? But now...
I know what that's like.
It's terrible.
But I don't know what it's like to be in first place.
Boy, we want to know who's #1, but we also want to know how long you've been #1 and when you lost #1 and how long we lost #1. Bryant, Catherine, Joe, Willard, Faith, and Jean.
You got to read that?
I do.
No wonder.
I don't take any chances. Well, good life.
It may have changed since the rehearsal.
Let me show you, listen, as you know, the morning news and information shows, some people think they're fluffy. Thank goodness nobody here wore a skirt.
Where's the whispering, Will?
Wait a minute. That's right, you did, Willard. You did. Watch this. Bryant Gumbel and the senior senator from Massachusetts. Holy cow. Watch it.
Senator, are you not going to talk about the Easter?
Well, I'm glad to talk about whatever you'd like to. I'd like to talk about health insurance, but I'm glad, Brian, to talk about anything you'd like to. I enjoyed your speech up there at Providence College, where you spoke up there, and my son graduated.
Thank you very much, Senator. Let me ask you a couple of quick questions, if I might. You have obviously taken a public relations pounding as a result of the Easter incident. What's your view of the way the media has handled this alleged incident?
Well, I think I've been in the public life for some 30 years. I think enjoy the more favorable stories than others, but I believe that by and large have been fairly treated, and we look forward to the continued work in the Senate.
Senator, let me get to one final point, and I confess to a great deal of discomfort in asking it. Your friend Senator Hatch made news when he related the basics of a conversation he had with you about drinking, and of you, he said, quote, he acknowledged it would be better for him not to drink. Yeah. Do you think you have an alcohol problem?
Absolutely not.
You see no need to alter or modify your behavior in any way?
I think all of us would like to improve ourselves, obviously, but, and I value Orrin's friendship, and I enjoy working with him in the Senate, and I'll look forward to continue to work with him. Hope we get his support for health insurance.
I'm scared of you.
Why?
Holy cow. Talk about in your face here. But he is a public servant. Fair game. What's the problem?
It was fair. His staff understood the ground rules before he came out. I asked 20 times, were there any stipulations, any preconditions to his appearance? His staff told me no. And we pursued what we thought then was a very legitimate story. I don't recall the date on that, but it wasn't far past that incident. It wasn't like a year down the road we decided to bring this up.
Mm-hmm. Catherine.
You can call me Katie, Phil.
Thanks. You weren't altogether a member of the Booster Press with my vice president, Dan Quayle. You can be,
That's who he is.
huh?
I wondered who he was. Okay.
Yeah. You can be pretty aggressive. Don't give me that nice smile. Boy, you're... Yeah. So it's part of the game, and this is what you do, and you try to make a living, and you're not out to walk on anybody's face, but these are public servants, and they have an obligation to answer your question. How am I doing?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that sometimes because I'm a woman that people may not expect me to ask some tough questions, but I feel obligated as a journalist when I'm interviewing David Duke to pull a soundbite from the National Press Club when he makes a bigoted or racist comment, when he says that he basically denounces racism and says he hasn't been one for several years, and I feel obligated to ask the vice president questions that the American people want to know. If they don't feel confident in his abilities as president, I think I should ask him why.
Willard, why don't you go? I have to leave.
Now, wait a minute, Joe. Joe,
Yes, Phil?
you look like a happy man to me. This
I
is
am
a
happy.
nice way to make a living.
Yes, sir.
It beats squatting for 9 innings.
Hey, pal, the way I squatted, I'll tell you.
Especially-
It's anything.
Squat for him now.
Especially...
If you promise to get me up, I'll
I'll
get
help
down.
you. Squat. Let's see if you can
I
squat.
can get down. All right.
Seriously, can you?
You are looking at the pinup boy for the Golden Girls right here.
Only man can get applause for squatting.
That's right. A real squatter.
Actually, you have taken very good care of yourself, old pro. You will not be insulted. I get
No.
to call you that. You know,
That's
I'm
right.
Gray-haired myself.
Are you kidding? Remember the first show we did?
100
In
years
Dayton?
ago.
You had black hair.
I did.
He did. I could see dandruff. Now you can't tell him he's got dandruff.
That's true. Joe and I go back
That's
farther
right.
than we may want the audience to know. Not to be confused with Willard, who's still in the womb.
Some building.
And his fans may not know that you were, and don't forget this, Willard, the first Ronald McDonald.
That's right.
Just a side note, now that I've grown up and become mature, I work for Burger King. And we have a Burger King burrito that is going to be fantastic at your Burger King starting next month. It's delicious.
And then you did the real pan, right?
That's right.
He does the real pan right after.
They get you both ends.
Faith Daniels delivers the news. I believe you.
I'm the
You
serious
almost
one.
never make any
Yes.
mistakes. You don't get in the way of the copy.
I'm the quiet, serious one.
And you also, are you not a West Virginia native?
Across the border in Pennsylvania, but I went to school in West Virginia.
I see. Uh-huh. And the routine in the morning is a nice way to go through life.
I'm sleeping in now. I don't get up until 4:30.
May I just ask you, couldn't we make the news expandable or contracted according to what's going on? You've
I think
got...
we do to a degree. I think that when it's a heavy news day, it's longer. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that...
Today was a rather slow news day, so I think the news blocks were a little shorter. Mm-hmm. You trying to tell me I'm boring you?
Not at all. I'm trying to tell you that the opposite is true, that you're so good at what you do, I'd like to see you on more often doing more of it, and that maybe we are married to a format that is penalizing at times when news is big. That's the end of it.
Got out of that one.
Pretty rough, huh?
Oh, man.
Pretty nasty.
I'd like to see more of her, too.
I don't want to see more of you.
We get dressed in the same dressing room, Bill, so
Do you
that's
believe
right.
that?
We
I turned
do.
around and Willard
That's-
was without his pants.
I mooned the entire city of New York.
And that's some sight, Phil.
Yes, it is.
That's a full moon, baby. Waka waka.
Can't straighten it out anymore.
This is like interviewing the United States Supreme Court. Gene Shalit, 18 years on the Today Show. Well, you're doing something right. You're a long way from Morristown, New Jersey.
I am a long way from Morristown, New Jersey, and Urbana, Illinois. You bet.
And, are you at the movies every night?
No.
Playing every
No,
other
no.
night?
Couldn't do it every night. I don't. Some people see 2 and 3 movies a day. People in my business.
Yeah.
but I can't do it because by the time I see the third movie, I forgot the first movie.
I do.
He's got a popcorn machine in his office.
I do want to share with you another moment. Bryant Gumbel has a way of looking at a guest. Well, you'll see him. Watch Bryant on this interview. This is the face that you don't want to see on a person interviewing you. Watch this. He's interviewing LaToya.
What is your relationship with Jack? I mean, he's
He's my manager.
But he's your husband.
Yes, he is my husband in name only.
What's that mean?
That means that we were married. We were married, as a matter of fact, 2 years ago today.
Happy
September
anniversary,
5th.
but go ahead.
And he's my husband. He's my husband in name only, and we were forced to be married because of my parents and what happened. There were so many things going on, Brian, that you and other people don't know about that went on during this particular time, where my family tried very desperately to kidnap me, which sounds very, very strange because they wanted me back at home. They didn't want me out in New York, and it got so far that they had sent guys out to assassinate him. And because of those reasons, he felt that if he had me in his name, that I wasn't liable to them anymore. I wasn't a part of that particular family. I didn't ask to be, I didn't want to be at the time, and it was a shock to me. He just grabbed me and said, "We're getting married," right after my show, and I said, "But I can't." He goes, "LaToya, this is to protect you and myself." And it was, because when they did try to kidnap me, they did have the lawyer there for the lawyer to say, "This is a civil matter. It's a family matter. You can't do anything about it if we should call the police."
Well, there you have it. Some of you may know that I have been hired as the interview analyst for NBC. Can we see this? Now, here you have, as you see, the eyes are partially open here. Then you have the deep impression of the little finger into the cheekbone there. The mouth is slightly turned up here. There it is. The mouth is slightly turned up. Now, generally, your general persona here, and I've studied this quite a bit, you have here the face of a man who is essentially saying, "What the hell are you talking about?" Bryant Gumbel interviewing LaToya Jackson. You won't hear this expert analysis anywhere else. There he is. There he is. We got him. Got him again. He does?
Yeah, looking at you.
Yeah, the same look. Did you believe her?
That was adorable. I loved it.
You didn't believe her either? Did you believe? Did anybody believe her? Thank you.
You don't want to just walk into an interview on the Today Show. We'll be back with further analysis of all the stars as the Today Show celebrates its 40th birthday. We'll be back in just a moment. Hi, are you there? Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is for Bryant. First, I'd like to say congratulations on being with the show for 10 years.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to say that you've taken a lot of press bashing over the years, and a lot of people don't find you as friendly as you should be, or whatever their comments are. But I find you to be one of the most intelligent and best prepared interviewers in the business.
That's the way it is.
Thank you for letting Mom throw on the line. I appreciate that.
I was wondering if June got this one.
Yes. Since Katie came on the show, it's so much fun to watch because you're having fun and it comes over to the audience and we enjoy watching you.
That's nice.
How old's your baby?
She's almost 6 months. She'll be 6 months on the 23rd.
Oh.
When in doubt, talk about the baby.
Well, I mean, come on, is this neat? You're on the Today Show, the ratings, you've rallied. You've got a 6-month-old baby. She was what?
She was off at Johnny Carson's program. She said a little bad thing, but I heard.
Oh, no.
She knows. She knows.
Well, are you allowed to say it on?
I can't say it, but
you tell it to me and I'll say it. Just whisper.
It was Hank, wasn't it?
I didn't say it. Johnny did.
Johnny did.
You both did. You both did. No, I didn't.
You got good ears. What did she say?
am I supposed to say it?
Oh,
She said Venus.
She said,
Venus.
Something between us and Venus.
I see. That's right.
Yes.
I have a question for Katie. You mentioned before that as a woman you encountered certain expectations in your profession, and also Faith, what other expectations as a woman have you come in contact with being a journalist? And
In other words, have you sustained any prejudice, or is that your question?
have you come in contact with anything that you could tell us about that deals with your being a woman in the journalistic profession?
I've always had problems not only being a woman, but looking somewhat young for my age. I remember the first time I did a live shot for CNN, I was so excited. I was about 24. So I spent all night practicing in front of the mirror. They were sending me to the White House to talk about what the president was going to do that day, and I was so excited. And so I got this little blazer on, and I was all ready and combed my hair and put my barrette in. And I got there, and it was during a commercial break, and all of a sudden I heard the anchors say to each other, "Who is that girl? She looks like she's about 14. So I've always had a problem sort of fighting that, and I think I've had some of the typical problems any woman faces in this business, where some people don't take you as seriously as they might because you're female.
Did you want to add, Faith?
I guess there have been a few statesmen who have expected a kiss before they do an interview.
Really?
Even if I wasn't conducting it.
I never had that problem.
Yes. Me either.
Yes. I never had that.
Willard? Oh, Phil, I just wanted to tell you I love your show first. But Willard, I wanted to ask you how you got in the weather business, but now I think it's much more interesting and how you got to be Ronald McDonald, because that's just great. I want to know.
Well, when you're from Washington, D.C., you got to be a professional clown to compete with the politicians.
But did it help your career in weather? But did being Ronald McDonald help you become a big weatherman?
Well, the greatest thank you for the nice question. The nicest thing in my whole life has been absolutely a fluke. Every good thing that's ever happened. If I auditioned for something, I lost it. If I presented some program, I produced more pilots than the United States Air Force Academy. And I call my production company Hindenburg Productions, everything. But the dumb luck things in my life have always been a winner, and the weather was one. I used to read the weather on radio after Stella Dallas. Anybody in this group remember Stella Dallas? I thought I smelled a little Ben Gay in the crowd.
A lot of Ben Gay.
That's how I got into the weather business, by fluke. They invited me to come up here by fluke because they needed somebody to fill in, and that's how my whole career has been.
You're the nicest fluke we ever
had. That's right.
A fluke and a fluke.
That's right. One quick thing, can we add, although he didn't mention it, one of those pilots that he just talked about, the latest one is a show, and it's going to be on the Family Channel starting at the end of this month, right?
Thank you. That's
The amateur hour.
The original amateur hour.
Sure is.
Well, that's why they put you in there.
Round and round she goes, where she's Major Bones.
You got it.
First of all, Gene, I love your mustache.
Thank you.
And also, what did you think of the JFK movie? What's your opinion on
Very
that?
good question. Thank you.
I think that's a really, really big controversy, and I'm very interested the way that's handled in the press, because most of the people who agreed with the Warren report when it first came out seemed to be defending themselves in the newspaper instead of reviewing the movie. And it doesn't seem to be changing anybody's mind. People who thought that it was more than Oswald still agree and point to the movie, and those who don't call the movie a bunch of bunk. So
Yeah. Were you absorbed, entertained by the movie? Did it compel you?
It's a long time to be absorbed.
Well,
I felt like a roll of cotton. I mean, it was 3 hours and 15 minutes.
really? Well, this is not the adjective that the guys who put up the $1 million for the picture are looking for. Long, if you know what I mean. You did a review a movie once. Everything you say winds up on the marquee. Would you kindly tell?
Oh, you want to tell that story?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was doing a review of a movie called Benji about a little dog, and we're a live program. And I guess I was a little long-winded, and Jimmy Straker, our stage manager, went like this, meaning, speed it up, buddy. So I stopped the review and I said, that's the movie. I think it's time for this message. And they went to a commercial. And then 2 or 3 days later, at the theater across the street from NBC, the Guild Theater, it was on the marquee. It says, "I think it's time for this message. NBC TV."
For Benji. For Benji. Let me. I won't try to top you, but in the computerized world, I have received more than one letter that says, "The Phil Donahue Show, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, New York City, New York. Dear Mr. Show."
Really? Who was that, from Captain Hepburn?
Here is Joe Garagiola at work, 1966. Let's go to the videotape. The winning locker room, Baltimore Orioles, Hank Bauer, Frank Robinson, and the highly regarded Joe Garagiola. This is the worst job in broadcasting.
The Baltimore clubhouse, and these are the champions. And they've just won. This is Hank Bauer. Hi, Joe. How are you, buddy? Hi, John. Introduce the guy. Hey, Andy. Hi, John, Andy. Hey, great year. Good. How you doing? How's everything? Polly, how you doing, baby? How's everything? It's not too bad, Kurt. Not too bad. Beautifully done. That's a bad. Go on, Joe. Hey, this is Dr. Joe. Introduce Joe Garagiola. Who's the boss over here? Wait, wait a minute. You can tell if they won the. What you win? You know you look more like Yogi Don you ever did. You think I look like Yogi Don? No, you're better looking, Joe. Frank, tell us about this something serious. Tell me a little bit about that ball you hit.
Actually, Joe, it was a fastball down and out over the middle of the plate, and when I hit it, I knew it was gone.
I get the feeling I bumped the shaving commercial.
And we'll be back with the Today Show at 40 in just a moment.
To be part of the audience, please send a postcard to Donahue Tickets, care of NBC, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, New York, New York, 10112. Remember, postcards only, please.
We do our fans personally.
I'm glad you waited. Look at this happy faces on our stage today as the Today Show celebrates its 40th birthday. And who shall forget the man who presided over this really watershed event in television. Live, remember people used to look through the window? And peace and this obscene microphone that they used to wear. I mean, can you imagine Saturday Night Live with this mic today? Oh, you're talking lots of sketches. Are you there, caller? Hi.
Hi.
What do you say?
Debbie Norville was a fine co-host in Miss Dearly. How does the panel feel, mainly Brian, on the bad rap and press Debbie got?
That's a good question. We always made a point of saying that Deborah wasn't to blame for the predicament. Deborah was put in a tough position. This is the only job in the world you're expected to start perfect and get better. It's tough enough to do under the best of circumstances. It's almost impossible when you're being scrutinized and second-guessed on a regular basis. Deborah is now taking care of her baby. It was her choice. She seems to be enjoying herself. She'll be back with us tomorrow. If you'd like to see her, tune in.
I've often wondered why you don't put lists on your own show. For example, which magazines won in circulation last week? You know, there are those figures. I am fascinated by the preoccupation with how many weeks in a row. Yeah. I mean, does America care, or is this... believe me, I don't suggest that I know the answer to these questions. I just think when you figure there's a channel for every letter in the alphabet, aren't we a little fixated on who was the longest for how long? Not since 1983, not since the Civil War, only, wouldn't you love to say Time Magazine's cover story on so-and-so bombed last week? Oh. And those figures are available. Yeah. Come on. People will watch it, too.
I don't know that people care that much about it. I mean, and just because it's wrong doesn't mean that you should participate in it going the opposite way.
Very well said, Boy Scout.
How's a bad Boy Scout, Phil?
He got kicked out of the Boy Scout.
No, we don't need to talk about that.
He got kicked out of the Girl Scout.
He got kicked out of a lot of places.
Proving once again that the morning news and information programs can send them in there. Here's Katie Couric at work with only, 7.5 minutes, and she is interviewing the Vice President of the United States. Watch this.
From May.
From May.
Right.
May when?
I think it was mid-May.
Mid-May, okay. We're mid-June now. What did mid-May polls say? Because these polls, as you well know...
34%. Only 34% feel comfortable with the notion of you as president.
Well, the people want George Bush to be president.
But doesn't that bother you? That's a very small percentage.
Katie, look, let's talk about polls. You can ask questions any way you want to. Do I pay attention to polls? Of course you pay attention to polls. Do I wish my polls were better? Of course I wish my polls were better. You're all in the public eye, and I'm sure the Today Show wishes their polls were better, too. You know what? I'm working hard.
You were a political consultant, and you were advising Dan Quayle. What advice would you give him? How would you suggest that he change his image, that he improve his public perception?
One word of advice: do the job. And that's what I'm doing. And do it the best you can.
You've been doing that all along?
Absolutely. Don't you think so?
That's not for me to decide
Sure it is.
necessarily. Let me ask you this. Other than being loyal to...
Well, there she was.
One word of advice. How many words were
Here we are. What's the word of advice?
He said one word of advice, and he said 8 words he gave.
I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, the guy is such a target. Now, how do we get to what the people really care about without looking like you're walking all over his face? This cannot be a picnic. I really do think you carried it off without looking like a vulture. But you've got to confess to some anxiety yourself and discomfort yourself.
That was a very tense interview. I mean, we were so focused on one another, and I wanted to challenge him, and I wanted him to come up with reasons he felt a certain way or the public felt a certain way, and I really kind of was hoping that he would explain himself and say, gosh, Katie, I'm behind the scenes. My job is to serve the president. I'm not that high profile. I'm behind the scenes. And if people knew a little bit more about what I did, I think they'd have more respect for me. I was really hoping he'd give me some of those answers going into the interview, and he didn't.
No. Are you there, caller? Hi.
Happy birthday, Howard Stern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We accept in his behalf your good wishes. Hi, are you there? I'm glad you called. Go ahead.
Yes, my question is for Brian. I understand there's a lot of controversy about you or Will not getting along with one another when they actually had words, and then you kind of made amends with one another. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah.
What time is it? Pay up. It's not my time. Pay up.
4:35?
4:35. Yeah, thank you.
He gets it. I had 410 to 420.
We had a pool. I had 430 to 440.
You just made it.
So you win then.
I won the money.
You won.
The call.
I got 515. I think I'm paying again.
All right. The winner of the pool is Gene Shalit. The pool, obviously, an attempt to guess when the question about Willard and Bryant would come up, and Gene is the winner. Be speaking to this audience and those watching a recognition that the memo and the copy that followed its leak really has been at the heart of today's show copy, certainly one of the biggest stories in the history of this magnificent undertaking called Today. It's all over. I saw you with your arm around the guy this yesterday or today or...
that was on tape, but you did see it. That's right.
So it really is possible then for you to walk away from a moment that was not pleasant, and I guess we can say what? That there's distance now between the event and you're okay, and...
Me?
Yeah.
At this stage of the game, I'm hysterical. I have had the nicest relationship in the last 2 years We saw a turnabout in that program, the likes of which I've never seen in my career. And I mean this with all my heart. I just signed up for 4 more years. I'm 58 years old. That means I'll be 62. 6 more months I can retire, dignified with my $100 a month. If ever. They'll have to shoot me.
That's right.
But the truth is, our show has never been better. I wouldn't have always said that because we had our problems, and you know that, and I know that. I don't want to come across as Pollyanna. But I'm telling you, in the last year and a half to 2 years, and one of the reasons sitting right over here just next to Mr. Garagiola, it's been a breath of fresh air, and I have never seen anybody work harder at trying to change things than Mr. G. I love him. We're a team, and onward and upward, and we will be number 1 by the end of this program.
What would you like me to say, Phil?
This is obviously...
Willard, you know, people, so much was written about it that people seem to forget that Willard and I talked about it immediately after it happened. And like any professionals who go through a crisis, we had a job to do and we continued to work through it. And like Willard said, we've got a terrific relationship. The last time I happened to say that to a reporter, one of your competitors decided to bring some people down to try to crash our stage to prove it, so I'm reluctant to do the same kind of thing again. But, I mean, to us, it's old history. Katie said he found his toupee in my office the other day, so she thinks we're having an affair, but not really the case.
Wait a minute, you're having an affair with my toupee?
And we'll be back with the stars of the Today Show now, 40 years old, in just a moment.
Okay, 2 quick things for Katie. When you're interviewing an interviewee, do you give them the questions beforehand? And
No.
second, if during the interview, if you think of something off the top of your head, are you allowed to throw that in? Or are you stuck?
No, you just have to go 1, 2. No, actually, yes, you can throw in anything you want. Obviously, you have to be careful about what you say or how you say it. And in some instances, the producer or the writer in charge of the segment does a pre-interview with the individual and gives them some idea of some of the things that you're going to be asking. And you can stick to that or you can deviate, and I usually deviate.
You're a great deviator.
Devious person.
Yes, I wanted to ask Brian, with 10 years on the show, that's a long time. What have you thought about doing for the future?
Playing golf, becoming a 3 handicap.
What about running for public office?
No, you know. These guys would get a kick out of that.
Then I get to interview it.
No, they talk about skeletons in the closet. Mine got meat on them. No, politics is really not for me. What do I want to do? I don't know. Willard just re-upped for 4. I just re-upped for 3. I think Katie just re-upped for 3. Didn't you? Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't get the word yet?
Yeah.
No, I'm not one of those who's real good at looking past, you know, any job that I'm doing. I'm anxious to enjoy the next 3 years, and then when that's done, we'll kind of consider it. I wish I could tell you something more intelligent and tell you I had these great long-range plans, but I don't.
I'll tell you what is fortunate for all of us is that Joe is going to tell us who will win the Super Bowl. That's good, huh? I mean, he doesn't tell everybody. So, go ahead, Joe.
Well, I'm just a fan, but if I were picking, I would pick the Washington Redskins.
What'd you make playing ball, Joe?
The most money I ever made, I was 9 years in the big leagues. I ended up with the New York Giants. It was $14,000 a year.
Did you catch doubleheaders?
Oh, absolutely. I caught doubleheaders, and you caught spring training, you caught batting practice, and it was different. Now, the players, they're a lot smarter than we were. They really are, and they're better equipped, they're better handled. I just wish they handled their money much better than the guys in my day because, and this is a plug, but with the organization I'm with, BAT, we got a lot of people out there hurting, and I'm talking about widows and those players that played the old Negro League. They are really forgotten.
You have old, retired, senior citizen professional athletes who are broke, huh?
So broke. Well, I got a call today. Let me tell you, this fellow played in the World Series. I won't tell you the year because it'll tip it off. We had to pay for the funeral of his son, and today I got a call from his wife. He's in jail on a cocaine bust, and his wife is living in a trailer, can't pay the rent. This fellow played in the World Series, so the Cy Young Awards, the Most Valuable Player Awards are gone, and they are hurting, and really hurting. Yes, I can go on, and I won't because these guys hear me all the time.
Yes.
Ask Katie and Brian, when you're interviewing people, do you find it difficult to keep your own biases out of it? Do you feel you're objective most of the time?
I think sometimes it is tough. You know, you have to make a conscious effort to be even-handed with controversial subjects. And I think oftentimes people misconstrue provocative questions for being biased. If we have someone on from a particular viewpoint, obviously we have to play devil's advocate and ask them challenging questions. So sometimes I get letters from people saying, how could you be so anti-environment? And I'm not anti-environment, I'm just challenging someone who might be about, you know, a various angle of the story. So that's, I think it is sometimes difficult. But it's our job to be
We have to break here. Gene, the best flick up...
Wait, no, where's she from?
Melbourne. Melbourne. Well, tell us what you'd go to today. I know that...
Come on. If I just want to go to the movies?
Yeah.
Well, speaking absolutely personally,
right,
I would go see fried green tomatoes.
All right, I will.
I loved it.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
NBC, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, New York, New York, 10112. Remember, postcards only, please.
What do you think of the Phil Donahue Show?
Well, I don't know why we don't quiz the men more about their families, but we don't, and I won't start the trend today because I do want to...
Pictures of my grandson?
Yeah, well, you've got them there. Faith Daniels, 2 children, Andrew and Alex. Miss Daniels, your husband, and don't forget this, is Dean Daniels, news director of WCBS here in New York City.
You never forget that.
Well, isn't that interesting? well, hey, a fly on the wall. What kind of pillow talk might this be? I mean, there's nothing going on in this town or in our game that you both together must not know about. What wonderful conversations you must have.
Or what secrets we try to keep from each other. You should see us some nights doing our homework, no one wanting to let anybody else see into their folder.
Your children are asleep, as I hope Kathy's is when you go to, Katie's is when you go to work in the morning.
We hope. My husband hopes they are when I go to work.
So the babies are asleep when you leave, and you get home, obviously, noon.
Oh, because I do a closer look at 11:30, so it's a longer day now. It's a longer day.
But it doesn't mean your husband and you can't handle it, and your kids know who their mother is, and you don't feel any guilt.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. You know, when you're a working mother, you have to feel guilt, or you wouldn't have the full equation going.
Are you there, caller? I'm glad you waited. Hi.
Thank you. I've been watching the Today Show for the last 15 years, and I've noticed with each personnel change, there's a period of adjustment to get used to the way the show is run. When Willard came on, he was like chalk on a blackboard. But I stayed with the Today Show, and he won me over. And I think he's terrific, and I wouldn't miss him.
Like a fingernail on a blackboard.
Yes, and sometimes he wears a hairpiece and sometimes he doesn't. It's hard to keep up with this guy.
He's got it on now.
Yes.
Where is it?
Yes, there it is. Let's take a look at this nostalgic look at today at 40. I mean, how many names can you know? Barbara Walters, Jack LaScooley, Dave Garraway, John Chancellor, Frank McGee. Holy cow, Tom Brokaw, Jane Pauley. Watch this.
Welcome once again to the Today Show. And now I'd like to bring on a very dear friend of mine who has been in show business in a wonderful way. Please welcome Gene Shalit. Here he is. Take it away, Gene.
You may call me Ollie, please. It keeps me young.
Oh, heck, you can call me Janie if you'd like. I don't
Janie?
care. Yeah.
Thank you for being a part of our show, too, and peace.
Brian, I wanted to ask if there's anyone in particular that you would really like to interview who you have not been able to get on the show.
I always thought that the one interview that I think everybody who's ever sat on this side of the microphone covets would be an interview with Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. She has remained maybe in a day of oversaturation and ubiquitous media. She has remained the one, I guess you could say, has remained above the fray, above it all.
Yeah, I would like to ask each and every one of y'all, which was the most interesting interview y'all had?
I do so many comedians and movie actors and actresses that there is no one single one. But Carol Channing made me laugh the hardest, and Mel Brooks made me laugh the most frequently.
I'll give you all a chance to think about this most, worst, best in. We'll be back in just a moment. Well, you have to let me show off just a bit. I am proud to claim 3-year residency on the Today Show. Donahue on Today aired from 79 to 82. We did a segment for this program. Here's just one of them. I just want you to see just a small piece of this. Show him, Brian. Good morning, Tom. Hello from Chicago. Guess who's here? Rock Hudson. Smoking. You'll pardon me for raising my eyebrow.
The last one.
You're serious, aren't you?
I are.
The last?
This is my last one.
Tell me why.
Because I am in a musical, and singing and smoking doesn't mix, and smoking isn't good for you in the first place.
Yes.
And I need help. I've been smoking for 40 years.
Have you ever tried to quit before?
I quit for 3 months once, and...
Okay. That was Rock Hudson, who I'm not sure whether he kept it.
As a college student starting out, I was wondering what some of the beginning jobs you had were.
Yeah, how do you get in this
And
thing?
did you ever see yourself holding such prestigious positions on a show like the Today Show?
Are you talking to me?
I don't know. Who'd like to fire up first?
I think Brian. Go, Brian.
He's the oldest, longest running member of
Thanks
the
a
show.
lot.
No, I was a Russian history major and a folding carton salesman. Seriously. I was a folding carton salesman who kind of got sidetracked and became a sports writer and then a magazine editor, and then I started out in KNBC in Los Angeles when I was 22. That's how I got into it.
Sir.
As a baby.
This is for Bryant?
Yes, sir.
I want to know if you've had to deal with racism personally.
I think everybody who's black has to deal with racism in this country.
On NBC or during your stay at NBC?
I don't think there's ever anything overt. I think there are some subjective judgments that go on across the board basis that perhaps you're held to a different standard than others, but nothing overt that I could point to on an ongoing basis. No.
Yes.
Willard, I wanted to say you're a wonderful weatherman. We watch you at Tufts in Boston every day. Brian, I have a question for you.
Yes,
that is, you're very used to interviewing. How is it to be interviewed?
I can't stand it. Honest to goodness, Katie and I were talking about this last week because we just went west and we got a chance to do the late night shows and Johnny was wonderful and Arsenio was fabulous and it's just uncomfortable. I just don't
Bryant
like
was very nervous. It was really cute.
I should make this point that the 40th anniversary celebration of the Today Show airs on NBC Tuesday night at 10 o'clock Eastern, and of course, Tuesday morning, it will be a great big party on the Today Show itself with Barbara and everybody showing up. Are you there, caller? Hi.
Hi.
What do you think?
This is directed to Joe Garagiola. I'm from Buffalo, New York, and we are going to win the Super Bowl.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
To today's program, send $3 check or money order to Donahue Transcripts, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203, or call 303-831-9000.
Beth thought it was a costume shop. It turned out to be a sex store. Find out how she exposed the owners next Donahue.
God bless the Today Show at age 40 with a big party on the Tuesday edition of the Today Show with all the hosts dropping in. And also the special on NBC Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern. Today is 40. Holy cow.
Happy birthday. Did Katie or Faith have a mentor when they got into the business and into the Today Show?
I didn't have any particular person on television who I wanted to be just like. I admired good writers, primarily, and Barbara Walters has always been somewhat of a role model because she really paved the way for women.
Services provided and promotion.
May I ask you to join me in thanking all these